So, episode 147 today with Gita Balakrishnan definitely promises to be walking the talk. And as a tennis player and motivational speaker, Leander Pace says, Gita's journey is a testimony to extraordinary potential within each of us to bring the change. And I'm absolutely honored to bring her inspirational and a spectacular story today through a conversation and her book, 1770, A Walk for a Cause, on our platform Transliterature series. Welcome, Geeta. You've been an
Thanks, Neeta.
inspiration to so many. In fact, you're one of the biggest inspirations to my daughter, Shreya, too. I must introduce Geeta. Though most of us know about her, she's a well-known practicing architect from the School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi, and has also done some extended courses from CMU, Carnegie Mellon University, and she formed Ethos Foundation 22 years back to sensitize young minds from the field of architecture, construction, engineering, and designs to be the agent of change. So welcome once again, Geeta. Such a
Thank
pleasure to
you.
have you with us today.
Thanks, Neeta. Pleasure being here.
So how are you really feeling about the overwhelming response that you're getting to your book, 1770, which has been published by Rupa Publication? And I hear it's already in the second run. So early, just been released, but second print run already. So how does it all take you and how do you feel?
It feels very good, certainly. It's not something that I planned. Being an author is not something that I am working actively towards. It's because this journey happened and needed to be documented. The story needed to be told. I think that's why I wrote this book and it's gone out there. And I took great pains to put myself in the reader's shoes to
Yes.
see what they would like to, how they would like to read and how they would like to consume about my experiences. And I think it feels really nice to be in the second print already, for sure. And I'm also more delighted about the fact that the story is reaching people. I think that's when larger change can happen, when all of us come together. Even in our small actions, we start, bringing about change. I think the larger change will come about. So I'm happy that this book is reaching people.
No, it's totally inspirational. I mean, I'm going through the book still, few chapters left still, and I just cannot wait to finish the book. I mean, you've written in a very narrative and in a very easy style, and it gets across to you. And also because you were thinking so much about architecture, making the change.
I tried to stay away from that in the book
I know
so
you
that it
do, but
didn't become too technical. I tried to keep it more common person centric. I also tried to see, the younger generation likes to keep it short. So the chapters you'll notice are not very long, they are short, and you can kind of start anywhere, stop anywhere. So
yes,
I took care to do some of those things when I wrote, yeah.
I know. And that is the best part. You know, the chapters are engaging at the same time, small, and you cannot just wait to read more insights and you just go on to next chapters. You sometimes can skip, come back again. So there's
Right.
so much to learn. There's so much in the book that I must tell everyone to really, really order the book and read. Those of you who've not read it, and those of you who've read it, you can just read it. There's so much.
Review it for me as well, because I think that'll take the book to more people. Yeah.
And I know it's all in the book, and but I still want to know from you why this walk for a cause. I know most of it, but yes, our readers will like to know why this book. I know this question must be on repeat by a lot of people to you, but in your words, why this book for a cause, and why did you really chose to discover India on foot? What were your main emphasis?
You mentioned ethos started. So
Yes.
there's a distinction between ethos and ethos foundation. The
Okay.
foundation and the social responsibility part of it started about 3 years ago. But
Hmm.
ethos started many years ago. And all our work was centered, and that's how maybe your daughter Shreya knows of me as well, was centered around building an awareness um, amongst the community of designers and architects on, maybe outside the classroom learning, telling them about global trends, telling them about each other, giving them a platform for them to compare themselves with. But along the way, in the last 22 years, I realized that if we do not include the common person who's not an architect in the conversation, we're doing the community of designers a disservice as well, because it was becoming more and more a niche space, more and more a space for that design kind of looked to become a luxury. It was only those who could afford it who looked towards design, and the others were left high and dry. And this kind of became the reason why I felt I should explore more with common people. I took to running at the age of 45. That was about 10 years ago. I'm turning 56 in a month, in a couple of months actually. So it was a very happy coming together of my passion for fitness and running and endurance that started 10 years ago, and this whole search of how to make a difference to the community that started 20 years ago. And I think the central theme for the walk became design, to understand how common people actually perceive it, how we as designers do not reach out to people who matter most in terms of volumes, because the smaller minority kind of takes care of our livelihood. So how it's important to give some part of our time to the community as well is something that came about. And that's how I think this walk got crystallized over a period of time on what it should be about. And discovering what I was seeking to uncover on foot was something that became very essential, because you don't get that kind of an experience in a vehicle, and you don't get to meet everybody. You don't get to. It's not something that people will relate and respond to you if you're in a car. But if you're on foot, a hi, a hello, sitting down under a tree, someone comes and sits with you. You have a drink of water together, and then the conversation starts. So yes.
You know, you also quoted Mark Twain in the book, and you said that a man cannot be comfortable without his approval. There's so many quotes, and there's so many inspirational quotes besides your own sayings in the book. So 70 days, 25,72,920 steps, 849 villages, towns, city, 6 states and 1 national capital territory. Scores of people, as you said, a lot of smiles, interactions, and immeasurable joy. So how do you look back on it? How do you look back on this incredible feat that you achieved, and finally you were able to do what you really wanted to do? I mean, it's amazing how you really went through, and you are a meticulous planner, as you mentioned. So this was totally meticulously planned. So how do you feel now? Because at the age of 53, when you took this, you were 53. You really were inspired to take such an extensive journey. So, I mean, how do you feel now? How do you feel? I know many more runs you've again done, walks you've done.
No, but it'll never be the same.
Yes.
It was a high that I think I started craving for those 70 days. If someone else came and told me today they did something like this, I'll say, Pad, no, it's not possible. But having done it myself, I know it is possible. It has happened. And it was physically extremely strenuous. I don't think I've done anything like that after that. The number of mileage has come down hugely in the subsequent walks, because I'm kind of now focusing on the interactions, the cause, and so on. So the mileage has come down, and I don't think there will be another such walk. So the first few months were extremely difficult after the walk, personally as well, because it was like coming back after sipping elixir. You come back and then you're kind of saying, where am I? Do I want to be here? And then I think the rest of the journey that is to follow, that is what I'm doing now through my cause, kind of takes over. And I feel blessed that the idea occurred to me when I did. I feel blessed that I had a team that both on ground and behind the scenes, managing this so perfectly, like you said. While I can be a perfectionist, I can be meticulous. If I don't have a team that follows up on it to deliver while I'm on the walk, I can't do much if there is a goof up, if there is a poor coordination, poor documentation. There's not much I can do about it because I'm physically completely exhausted when I'm walking, taking these journeys every day. So I think all that kind of came together. And I seriously, every time I look back, I feel blessed that it occurred to me. I feel blessed that it changed me in the manner that it did to make me the person I am today. I expected to become calmer, slower, but I think I'm more driven, more aggressive to achieve what I believe is necessary to do. So it's a kind of uh, um, spirituality in a different way. I'm not sitting down and looking at myself, but I'm out there doing things, and I'm happy doing that. Yeah.
You had a lot of support from Council of Architecture and Indian Institute of Architects,
Okay.
and they're really feeling so good that you took up such an initiative and went to the ground and really finding out so many things that you did and like that. But how was it with your family? How did they accept you, and how did they cooperate? How were they open to your idea? Yes, and they were supportive all the way, or they had apprehensions. How did it go?
Um, Both my sons don't are already young men, old.
Hmm.
I mean, one is 30 and the other is 26. So they are already in, following their paths and working and so on. So they don't live with us. It's largely my husband and my mother that I talked to about before I committed myself to the walk. And then, of course, I informed my kids. While they were a little shocked at the idea or stunned by it, but I think they were as excited about the magic of the idea as I was. My husband's also a runner, and he's also an endurance. I mean, he walked 18 days with me. He couldn't take more time off from work, so he
Hmm.
walked 18 days with me. So while they did think it was a wild and radical idea, and they knew that they were they were in for a roller coaster with me, but I think they were completely with me every step of the way. I don't think they had too many apprehensions. They knew that I had planned this journey and I was not doing something stupid and foolhardy. I was going to be careful with my personal self. Only when I did things like, I remember climbing a tree and putting up that photograph on social media. And my husband said, "Did you really have to do that? What if?" And it actually is true. What if I had injured myself? The rest of the journey could get impacted.
Hmm.
So it was more from those perspectives that they were looking out for me. But I think they were really completely with me. And I'm glad you brought up Council of Architecture and Institute of Architects. Usually, these partners don't get talked
Yes.
about. I think Council of Architecture supported extensively during the walk, before the walk, of course, during the walk, and even now after the walk, they're very happy with the books. We're exploring another one, maybe in the Northeast,
Okay,
with
that's
a cause
important.
of with a cause of vernacular and looking at local
Hmm.
building techniques and so on.
Hmm.
And the Indian Institute of Architects, it was amazing how each chapter stepped up
Yeah.
and were kind of monitoring my safety, my security, my needs. Do you want something to stay? Where can we get you any help? So the way, and they organized small events. So I think it was very amazing, the support I got.
And I read what the president of COA wrote about you, and he says that your journey is an innovative and rather unique initiative to understand the pulse of a nation, which is so right. And I really feel this is what you've done. Maybe this is not what you really planned in a bigger way, but yes, it happened like that. You really got to the pulse, and people looking up to you, COA, IA, all the young architects, planners. Yes, this is a way you've really gone to the brass tacks and really discovered the hard, so, basic line of everything. Coming back to the book and your journey. So, what was the most, do you remember any incident or maybe any challenging part that you really look back and feel that, yes, this is something really, really important, or something which really touched you, any person, something that you would like to talk about from your journey?
There were quite a few when you talk about I think every day was
Hmm.
revelational in the sense of
Hmm.
what's going to come today, whom am I going to meet? Um, but if you look at the hardest part, since you spoke of it, I think the border between UP and Madhya Pradesh and Jharkhand, it's called the Sonbhadra region. And that was pretty hard because that was where the coal mines are. And the because of the enormous amount of truck traffic, hardly the roads were not in great shape. And I often find that these border regions across the country kind of get left behind in terms of development. So once you cross that, you have fantastic roads, but somewhere there they become no man's land, no person's land. And it was very so yeah, so traveling through that region where it's hot. It was already 37, 38
Yeah.
degrees as I was walking there, and your feet are kind of sinking into the dust with every step. And every time a truck goes by, you're enveloped in that tornado of dust. And there's coal dust almost everywhere, so you're wearing a mask and doing
Oh
those
my
number
God.
of kilometers. It was hard. But then there were absolutely amazing people. You would just see somebody who goes by you, and he or she talks to somebody in my team to find out who's this woman, what is she doing here.
It's
And then a little later, the person comes back and he says, "Ma'am, मेरे पास और कुछ नहीं है. मैं एक प्रिंटिंग प्रेस चलाता हूँ. नौकरी की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ." Printing
mm,
press would be, I think, screen printing,
mm,
simple small unit. And he brings a garland, which is, kind of a plasticky garland, and a bottle of water. And he says, "This is all I have to give you."
oh my God.
And, you're completely overwhelmed when someone does that and recognizes your little effort. Uh, uh, and it means something to them,
Mm,
that I'm walking through their region, touching their lives, or engaging with them. Or a little young student who's jumping up and down excitedly, hiding behind a tree when I'm coming there, and then,
mm.
revealing themselves. So a lot of these cute little incidents keep coming back to mind. And yes, they were beautiful
You
times.
mentioned a lot of showstoppers in your book. So maybe you would like to talk about maybe a few people. I know Tishoda, and I mean, there were so many names and so
Yes.
many people who moved you. Few stories that you would like to share, I guess. The
So
rest, we should read the book and find out.
yes,
Maybe
yes.
few.
I call them showstoppers because I think showstoppers are used largely in the fashion industry. But for me, they actually stopped me in my tracks with something they said, something they did. So showstoppers in my book are starting from a tree to maybe a house to
Hmm.
people, or even NGOs for that matter. NGOs
Yeah.
are a whole village. And maybe while yes, you mentioned Yashoda, who's this 90-year-old woman who
Yeah.
was completely effusive in her affection for me, hugging me and blessing me. Maybe good to if I was to pick for today, maybe Surbala in Madhavgram in West Bengal is somebody I could talk about, whose daughter
Hmm.
Maloti is likely in another year, next June, I think she'll be the first woman graduate from that village.
Okay.
And we've been following up on the village. That's part of our action plan for the future. And I went back to the village as well once, and I'm going back again, twice actually. I'm going back again. And I'm happy to realize that thanks to my walk, the village has got a plot of land to build a community center, and the local MLA is also giving them funds to build it. And they're going to run a school there. And Malati is going to be the principal of that school once it
My
starts for these
God.
little kids.
Imagine.
So yes, for Surbala, who's actually an Adivasi woman, to make sure that her daughter went to school every day, went to college every day, and they are performers. They are the community itself dances to drum beats at rallies, at weddings, at programs as a source of making money besides the potato crop that they grow. And so for me, I thought Surbala and that village of Madhavgram is what I could talk about today.
And anybody, they've been in touch with you? Some of them do write to you or something like that. Does it happen?
Yes, yes. So this NGO Malabum Prayas, through whom I
Yeah.
got in touch with Surbala, yes, they are in touch with me. There are even Anjali, who I talk about in
Yeah.
Banku, this again in Bishnupur, but in that resort Banalata. I've gone back and had a meal couple of times after that. And I was curious to know if they would recognize me because the first time I went, I was in tights and t-shirt, and this time I went in a sari. But they came, running up to me to hug me, Bandana and Anjali, where she talks about her house being a mud house, but which is very cool and gives them all the comfort. But when they build afresh, they are going to build with newer materials, and that conversation kind of why and how they could do it differently kind of ensued. So yes, many of them are in touch with me, and we are in touch through the local NGOs that helped us meet these people in the first place. So that we're looking to see if we could do some projects in these locations also through the foundation. So yeah.
You started with your own family, but now I think you have an extensive group of people who are part of your journey, and you are part of them now. I cannot resist asking you this because you're an architect, and somehow architecture also is in our family. So, what were some of the most surprising discoveries you made about Indian architecture while on the way, and design sensibilities, perhaps, maybe something that you would like to mention that as an architect you noticed, and something that you feel needs to be kind of really needs to be looked into? I know you've pointed a lot in the book too, and otherwise also I've been reading the kind of work that you've been doing, but especially as part
Yeah.
of your journey. What?
Yeah, I wouldn't say some of these things that I'm going to talk about were surprising to me,
Yeah.
but maybe it's surprising to common people. When I put it out, they say, oh, yes, we never even thought of it that way. So maybe,
Mm.
and it's important to talk about. One is the number of amazing local examples of fantastic architecture that I saw. And I thought to myself all along the way that we often celebrate monuments. We are talking about spending a lot of money. When you look at UNESCO World Heritage Sites, it's largely these very well-known monuments that kind of get listed. And when you talk of a history of a place, you often talk of those big monuments as defining moments of history of that place. But how important it is to talk about the day-to-day living homes of people, those who built those structures, maybe those who interacted with those structures. Because very often those big monuments that we celebrate were not did not give permission to common people to even enter.
Mm.
So, they're actually the privilege of just a small section of our population. The real history of a place can be told when it is told from the eyes of everybody. So
Mm.
I think it's important to celebrate these smaller homes, which most beautifully kind of disappear into earth once they've run their lives. So when you talk of sustainability, you talk of cradle to cradle design. These are examples.
Mm.
While you want architecture to last forever on the one side, on the other side we are talking about sustainability. How can they actually go hand in hand if you really want sustainability? So I think it's important to celebrate these monuments that to me, I call them invisible monuments because we pass by them and we don't give it a second glance. But I think they have the richness of, I mean, if I'm told by Jagjeevan in Bharra about how he uses an extract of the rice crop as an anti-termite treatment,
Oh my
I
God.
don't think you will find it in any textbook,
No, not at all.
right?
Not at
So
all.
how do you document these absolute valuable treasures? How and I think we're losing a lot of it. So in terms of the other side of it, I think most of our development schemes, our loans, our housing loans, or even grants, uh, kind of define that you need to be building pakka
Mm.
to get those funds. Meaning, so in the process, you're straight away killing all that was probably possible using locally available materials like local soil, the local roofing techniques, because you're saying you have to build something that is pakka. So again, this whole debate in my mind started about what is pakka, what is kacha. People want to be, the aspiration is to get to pakka, but on the other hand, we are in cities saying we need to build sustainably so that whatever we build goes back to earth. So we are saying we need to build kacha.
Okay.
So, this whole debate. So, yes, a lot of things like that stirred and continue to stir in my mind in terms of where directions should be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there were a lot of traditional construction practices in particular communities that really influenced your. Any other that you would like to say? Any other traditional construction practices in different state at a different time you felt needs to be kind of really picked up?
Yes, I think each state has its richness, and it comes from its soil, it comes from its stone, it comes from its weather and climate. You will see you will see the different colors of the soil in the construction itself, how it is more redder. The walls are redder in West Bengal and Jharkhand, and how they become slightly lighter and more pinkish as you go towards Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh. And then stone comes into play when you get to, say, Rajasthan. And even that stone is being plastered, by the way, because they feel that it's a symbol of prosperity to have a plastered home, while stone is such a beautiful material. Similarly, with the roof, how a certain kind of tiles are used in West Bengal, and how it maybe slate comes in the hilly regions, and how mezzanines come in Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. So yeah, there's so much variety in our country, so much richness in our country, and it comes from the place. And very often now, what we build does not really belong anywhere. It's a question mark. If I was to see the building by itself, I may not know where it is from.
You've spoken quite a bit about earlier also, and I think through this book also about this design literacy and why do you feel it is really crucial for Indian society? So I suppose all your observations and all what you've been doing definitely will help. And do you think really this helps in the cause of building up architecture narrative in India? Do you think this design
Yes,
literacy, as you've been talking?
yes. So I think if the Sumari or the Maloti I met in different
Hmm.
locations wanted to become architects,
Oh my.
would they in our country be able to become architects? And would they not make very good
Hmm.
architects because they understand? So if Sumari is telling me she studies geography because she understands, she wants to study geography because she understands nature, she loves,
Hmm.
the air and the water. Um, would she not be able to understand how to deploy, architecture and understand what her people in that location need?
Hmm.
So I think it is definitely, has provoked a lot of thought on, for me at least, on how it's important to vernacularize our architectural learning as well. How to contextualize it, localize it. Otherwise, we all have one syllabus, and that's also something that I'm hoping that Council of Architecture will be looking at as we go along. It's something that I have reported as some of my findings on how do we make that happen. Because I think, like you have doctors from everywhere, you
Yeah.
have, I think it's important and that will also help in the delivery process of
Hmm.
design as a service. And I think it needs to be a right. I think everybody needs to have access to uh, design advice. So just like you have an Anganwadi worker who's giving you advice on basic health,
Hmm.
how do you bring up a child without malnutrition? If you had somebody telling you that, okay, you're using a modern material, newer material, maybe you could use it in this manner for it to be, more effective, or a new technique that you're using, that you're importing from a city that you visited recently, how could you do it more sensitively? If you had that delivery mechanism, I think we may solve a lot of our problems.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And good that we had a talk about this as well, because this is really going to help a lot of people. But many of I have a long list of people who kind of follow our channel and then they also try to read what we propose and recommend. There were some people who really wanted to know what was a day like. I mean, 70 days in the grind. I know you were preparing, you've been a runner, half marathons, full marathons. You are, and I think somebody mentioned that why you all started this because you felt that there is definitely transformative nature to physical exercise. I mean, that really transforms you. But how was your day like, and how did you like go through these 70 days? Because I know it's very, people will get inspired, but they need to know the process as well. I mean, as to how to, I know you mentioned also some 10 commandments in the book, which are really useful, but your journey and how did you really prepare and how did you go through those 70 days? Because I'm sure there were some days when you felt, uh, do I go on? And what really made you so consistent and just keep on going the whole way through?
Thankfully, I think there were no days where I said, "Do I go on?" There were
Okay.
very
But
hard days.
yeah.
Maybe "How do I go on?" Happened, but "Do I go
Got it.
on?" never
Okay, okay,
happened.
okay. That's a better question. How do you go on?
Yeah. And I think there was no typical day. So if I was to say what was my day like, the mechanical part of it was when I woke up. So I when I started, it was still the fag end of winter. So I was waking up. I was getting out of the accommodation by say 5:30. But as I went on, and it got warmer and warmer, and by the time April, we were seeing the hottest April in 122 years. So it was 43 at the highest. And so when I was walking, it was about 37, 38. By noon, it would be 40. I was waking up much earlier. So 3 o'clock is when I would wake up. So and get out by 4 and walk till about 12 noon. So before I got out, I had an hour of my morning routine, which included about 25 minutes or 20 minutes of stretches. And then, of course, there was a slight warm up that I did before I actually started at the starting point. And then about 3 hours of pretty much constant walking, alternated with alternate days was walking and running, and one day was only walking. And then I would stop for a sandwich. So I had to make all these things also myself and keep myself ready with it. So a peanut butter sandwich would be made the day before and kept ready. There would be hydration fluid that had to be filled because I needed to drink a lot of water, keeping those things ready, keeping dates, apricots, and maybe some nuts in my pouch. So I didn't have to ask anybody for anything in case that, I was on my own and I didn't have my crew with me. I had what I needed. And so 3 hours of constant walking. At the end of 3 hours, I would look for a place which excited me or which I thought would rejuvenate me. It could be a tea stall, it could be a tree. Sometimes it was just on the roadside if we didn't find anything for kilometers. And we would sit under, I would sit there, and there would people start coming in to see what is happening there, and they would, and then conversation would start. So about 20-minute break in about 3 hours, where I interacted with people, told them my story, why I was doing this. We did some recording of their reactions, responses, conversation. And then I would head out again for the next 3 to 4 hours that I would continue walking. After which we would start figuring out where we are going to stay if we were not staying in the same place as the night before. And we would start calling them to say there is this hungry woman coming. Uh, and can we have some lunch organized, and try to make it as simple as possible, because you can't really plan your nutrition on the walk. All the planning and the building up happened before the walk.
Hmm.
But on the walk, I had to eat what I got. Bananas were something that I started my morning with, and maybe had another banana somewhere along the morning.
Hmm.
And then putting my feet, after bathing, putting my feet, either if I had some ice packs, I would use that. Otherwise, just put my feet up and uh, spend the next 2, 3 hours either talking to my team while with my feet up and figuring out what the next day should be.
Hmm.
And by then it was evening, getting ready for the next day again, packing and of course, talking to my family and keeping them appraised of how the day went. Yeah, so that was really a typical day.
And how did you really encounter any medical
Emergencies.
challenges? Yeah.
So I had my phone a friend.
Okay.
For ortho, I had
Okay.
spoken to a doctor that I might call him. My general physician was on call when I had. Uh, I did develop skin blisters and things like
Some
that, for
shoe
which
problems you had on the way.
Yeah, shoe problems, well, they were created by me, so nobody could help me.
I
I
know.
had to
I
kind
read
of,
that.
yeah, I had to kind of,
Yes.
it took a while. I was walking in great agony in the first 10 days, but I think that would have happened irrespective because I hadn't undertaken something like this. Nobody has undertaken something like this.
Actually.
So it's only after about 2 weeks you kind of start slipping into the groove
Uh,
that you're going to do this day in and day out. But yeah, so I did have people I was who would pick up my call. I had my a friend who's a trainer who
okay.
said you can call me when you have pain, not if you have pain. So she could tell me some exercises. So slowly the routine also in terms of my physical uh, stretches changed as I went along. When I discovered new pains, I said, okay, this has to be added to the routine and so on. Yeah, it was evolving.
You mentioned the book, but I mean, I had that question in the back of my mind before I read that you mentioned the book as well. But why walking? Why not cycling? Why
I
not?
think walking is something that helps you absorb at a pace that
Yes.
cycling, you still have to focus on pedaling, on direction, on the handle, but walking, you pretty much can spend time in absorbing what's around you. I think walking also reduces the distance between the people you're trying to engage with and yourself. You can hasten your pace if you want to catch up with somebody. You can slow down if you want somebody to catch up with you. And to 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 discover how one village becomes another, how one city becomes another, becomes the hinterland, how one state becomes another state, and how
Oh my
in the
God.
last, how one nation becomes another nation when you move from, say, West Bengal to Bangladesh, India to
Mm.
Bangladesh, how one nation actually becomes another nation. Is something I don't think I would have discovered if I was in another mode of transport, the way I discovered on this Padyatra.
So right, Padyatra, definitely. It was. And coming, unfortunately, we are coming to the end of our conversation, but I love the fact the way you've consolidated. I just mentioned those 10 commandments, in which it's a very important point that you mentioned that enjoy the journey because journey is the destination. So how about you? How's your future projects? You're up to, you've also mentioned that you have a cache of dreams. You keep on pulling it from there. So what are your next dreams? What are you going to achieve next? You've done so much already, but I know sky's the limit for you. So what
Yeah, so
else?
the
Yeah.
journey is the destination is really my mantra, and I also believe that there is no finishing line. So dreams keep occurring. So in fact, my team is waiting for the day when I say I didn't sleep well. They
Okay.
know I'm going to come up with,
So
very restlessly with the next set of ideas. So yes, we are working on a project on construction workers in Maharashtra, supported by Sengobain CSR funds, where we are. Construction workers also became an important part of
yeah.
my conversation during this walk about how there is this large gap between us designers, as we call us ourselves, and them construction workers, and
Mm.
how we need to see it as us all together, and there is no us and them. Only then, I think, will this journey of constructing a building become more humane. So we are doing this whole project. Last year we started with it. This year we are intensifying on the same, and we're moving from Mumbai to Pune, Kolhapur, Nashik, where
Mm.
we're identifying places where we can study construction workers. Like I said, I'm looking at a walk in the Northeast. I did an Odisha walking studio after this walk, where
Mm.
we walked from Konark to Bhubaneswar via Puri and explored different communities with colleges of architecture this time. I'm doing a similar, or at least planning a similar one in Punjab
Okay.
in November, where colleges of Punjab will be part of that entire exercise. They
Mm.
may not walk the whole distance with me, but they would be exploring with me the communities. So there's lots on the cards. So I'm quite excited. Yeah.
Um, And what, any last words on the book that you would like to mention? Were you maintaining, just a little question, were you maintaining a journal that you remember entirely everything about the journey,
No,
each word, each village? I
no,
know.
I chose not to maintain a journal because this walk was about me enjoying every moment. And if I was to sit and write, I would sit and leave voice notes to myself every day and to
Okay.
the team.
Okay.
But I think we also got a lot of footage. Every time I was engaging in a conversation, my documentation team would come out and record. So that's one of the reasons or one of the ways I remember. But I also have a fantastic memory so far. And there are some conversations you don't forget too easily. But yeah, we have a lot of footage which helped me reconstruct the journey. About what I would like to tell people about the book. Um, I think while this may seem like it was a personal journey, it was for, I call it walk for our cause.
Yes.
And our cause can mean architects, ARCAUSE, but it's also our cause.
Yeah.
And I think the strength of bringing about change is in the collective, in us coming together. And I think it's our responsibility. Our cause is also our responsibility. And I think it's when many of us, ideally each of us, but many of us realize that, recognize that, and in our own way, in our own circle of influence, start bringing about change. I think we'll be in a much happier place. So
Fantastic.
read the book.
Oh,
So read the
yes.
book. That's all I'd like.
This,
Not you. I'm telling your readers. Yeah.
I know. I'm just showing them this book. This is a fantastic book. I love the cover as well. I love your picture on this. And definitely, Gita's spectaculars story and why she's my champ. This is what Leander Pace writes
Yeah.
for
Thanks to Leander. Yeah. Thanks to
the.
Lee. Yes.
Thank you so much, Geeta. Thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy person with so much that you are have plans and you're achieving. And I wish you all the luck for all your future dreams, for your current dreams to materialize. And I'll wait for your second book. I know you would be achieving maybe
Hopes.
something on Northeast. That is one area we would all like to know about when you take this walk. And thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. I know it seems like another book seems like definitely a dream, but the walk seems more doable just now. Thanks so much, Neeta. Pleasure talking to you.
Same here. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
everyone for joining in and do subscribe to Transliterature Series. This is the YouTube channel where we put all our recordings and you would really come across such wonderful conversations as we had today. Thank you.